Known for his absolutely legendary roles in both drama and comedy, Ricky Tomlinson is one of the UK's most beloved actors.
He sure is. He swapped the telly for the stage now with his new show, and he joins us this morning. Ricky, good morning. It's great to have you with us. You're coming over to Ireland for a new show, In Conversation with Ricky.
It's Asa Murphy, who, as you know, he's part Irish, he's Liverpool Irish, and his parents and some of his brothers were born in Ireland. And we go around and he interviews me on stage, but it's quite different because we get the questions from the audience, which I think is more interesting, you know, because they say, where were you born, what were your parents like, what school did you go to, how come you were a building worker, why did you go to jail? All the sorts of questions that normal interviewers don't ask.
Well, let's get straight into the one, Ricky. Why did you go to jail? Because you came to acting when you were about 45 years of age. You were a trade unionist before it. So tell us about that time.
I went to jail. I was a political prisoner. I was actually a political prisoner, and people don't think we have them in England, but they're wrong. We do. We do. And I got pardoned after doing my time. I got pardoned after 47 years. Which was a lot of good to me then, wasn't it, considering I'd been out of jail?
You were the Shrewsbury 23. You were dissidents on the line.
Shrewsbury 24.
24.
And a lot of the lads were Irish, obviously, because they were all building workers. And I was working on the roadworks in England, well, Wales actually, and a lot of the workforce were Irish lads. In fact, the general foreman, the man in charge of the job, was about 6'9". He was a huge man, and his name was Mick Me. And that's where all the action took place. That's where I was actually accosted in the early hours of the morning by two plainclothes men and asked if I would give evidence against the building workers.
And what were you picketing against?
What
were you picketing against?
Well, you know, there was an outrage recently when an MP got killed. He was doing a surgery and some crackpot went in and killed him. And it was an absolute outrage. And the slogan was, no one should die because they go to work. Well, someone dies every day in the building industry, and nothing was done about it for years and years and years. And so our slogan was we wanted a couple of quid rise, 35-hour week, and better health and safety. Because even today, there's the injuries in the building industry are astronomical. They run into the hundreds and hundreds, and some of them are nasty falls. You know, people working on unsafe scaffolding, falling down holes that are not sort of secured and stuff like that. So it was a very, very, and don't forget, it's the one and only ever national building strike there's ever been. It's not as if the lads were out every week. The one and only ever. And so that's why when it actually came off, we gave it everything we had. And I'm glad to say it was very hard. It was very painful. I ended up getting 2 years. My mate got 3 years. And he paid. He actually paid with his life because he died from drug-induced Parkinson's from the treatments he got when he was in jail.
Ricky, when all this was going on, like what was prison like for you? Because there's definitely a pre-prison life and a post-prison life in your career, in your family life, and everything. What was jail like?
Well, it was horrendous because obviously I'd never been in trouble with the police before, and I'd come from a real tight-knit family, with 3 brothers, my mum and dad, living in a little 2-up, 2-down terraced house and stuff like that. But when we were in prison, we never just got in and done our time. We decided, because we were political prisoners, that we wouldn't soldier. So we wouldn't work. We wouldn't wear clothes. So obviously, if you don't wear clothes, that means you can't have visits. And then we actually went on hunger strike. And after 31 days on hunger strike, I actually ended up in the prison hospital.
Wow.
Horrendous stuff that you actually went to. So when 4 decades ago, four decades later, it was found to be miscarriage of justice and they cleared your records, what was that like for you? Did it offer you solace, or were you still really angry with the system?
Stick it. I don't want it. I don't want the power. What do I want a pardon for?
Yeah.
I don't know what the lads on the site asked me to do. I led from the front. I'd had a bit of trade union experience. And listen, you know, It was in 1972, and a lot of that, particularly the Irish lads, I might say, were sleeping in cement sheds because they had no proper digs. So they were sleeping on bags of warm cement, to get a night's sleep. Some of them were cooking on little pans outside, on the side of a morning, making a bit of breakfast. Conditions in the building industry, all that, in 1970, was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And listen, on the site there would be probably 200 men. There was one toilet. So what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
One toilet.
Listen, so you were one of the Shrewsbury 24 picketers, did time in prison. Then, of course, people recognise you as Jim Royle from the Royle family, iconic television. How the hell did you get into that?
I bluffed my way in because I wasn't working. I had no income. I had a wife. I had 2 small children. I was living in a little tiny cottage which wasn't finished. And I seen an advert in the Liverpool Echo for anyone with trade union experience and an equity card. Well, because when I was unemployed, I used to go down the pubs and the clubs with the banjo, singing, telling a few jokes, making a living. And so I applied. I wrote away for an audition, but I didn't use my own name. I didn't put Ricky Tomlinson, but Eric is my real name is. I put a phony name and sent off to London, and they said, "Oh, come down and see us and have an interview." And that's how it happened. But after a big fallout, by the way, because the man who actually auditioned me was a man called Roland Joffrey, who I love. I know him now. I love him. But at the time, I told him to stick his job.
Why?
Walked out the interview. And he phoned me up, and when I was going down in the lift, because I'd give a phony name, and he'd ask me questions for half an hour, and when I'm going down in the lift, he shouted, "I know who you are. You're Ricky Tomlinson," and I told him to.
We were talking about how to get ahead at work earlier on and asking for a raise. Be Ricky. Tell people to stick their jobs.
When I got to know him, he was absolutely wonderful. And I went and stayed with him in Chelsea for a couple of days, when the movie was on. And the movie we done was called United Kingdom. And I thought I had an extra part in it because I got a phone call off him when he'd auditioned me, when he'd spoken to me in London. And his secretary rang me up and she said, "Can you go to so-and-so? He wants you to do he wants you to do a workshop." And I thought he meant build a workshop. So I phoned my mate and I said, "Look, we've got to go and build a workshop for this fella."
And it wasn't.
And when I turned up, there's 40 people. And I knew all the faces because they were all from Liverpool. They were actors and actresses, Frankie Clark, Chris Bernard, Margie Pitt. And I said, "What are you doing here?" They said, "Oh, we're here for the workshop." "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, sorry." But we were in the wagon. We had sand and cement and a mixer on the wagon. I totally wanted to build one.
You can get a man who can do both. And just very quickly, when it came to the Royle family, that show almost didn't come about, but it did because the fabulous, God rest her soul, Caroline Aherne, she put her foot down about it, obviously the creator. What happened there?
Well, I was I'd won a little award. I had to go to one of these fancy showbiz dues, and I went with my wife. And she said to me, "Will you go and look and get me something off the buffet table?" And I went and I bumped into this young girl and I knocked her flying. And she turned round when she got up off the floor and she went, "Oh, you're my dad, aren't you?" And I went back to Rita, my wife, and I said, "There's a young girl in there that said she's got mental health problems. She thinks I'm her dad." That was it.
Oh my God. You became her dad, Jim Royle.
A quality show. You can see the chemistry straight off. I mean, what a show, the Royle family. Still, when it comes on the telly, I love to watch it as well. I know you're a busy man. You've got grandkids. You're a great-grandfather as well. You're bringing out a children's book, I believe, as well. And, of course, you're coming to Ireland this week. On Thursday, you're going to be in the Ambassador Theatre in Dublin. And on Saturday, the Crescent Concert Hall in Drogheda. If people want to get tickets for a conversation, Ricky Tomlinson, check it out, ticketsmaster.ie. Ricky, it's a pleasure to chat to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. God bless you both. God bless.
Cheers.
Enjoy it this week.
Cheers, Ricky. Thank you so much. Such a lovely
Love it. Still to come to this show, we've got some money lessons for the little ones.
Also in our class with YouTuber and Marvel Comics go-to illustrator Will Sliney. Talk to you in a minute.